6 Notes when renting a factory in Vietnam. Hello investors, if you are planning to open factory in Vietnam and lease a factory for the first time, this is the video for you. Every year, we lead hundreds of foreign investor delegations to find factories to open production in Vietnam, so we hope that those notes will help you save time while searching suitable factory for lease in Vietnam. 1. Should you lease a factory in an industrial park or outside an industrial park? First of all, when I mention two industrial parks in this video, means industrial parks and industrial clusters also will be included. In reality, industrial parks and industrial clusters are relatively similar, both opened with the purpose of attracting certain manufacturing industries. However, the scale of an industrial park will be much larger, normally around 100 hectares or more, and the industries will attract much more than the industrial cluster. So should you lease in the industrial park or outside the industrial park? It is recommended to lease in an industrial park. Why? Because it will be easier and faster for you to get the investment license. Since established, an industrial parks has a list of industries that it can attract. If your industry is in this list, it is easy to apply for license. If your industry is not in the list, you can choose another industrial parks that accept your industry. There are many choices. If you lease factory outside industrial parks, what will happen? I take an example in Binh Duong province, a province that has more than 28 industrial parks and has a lot of factories for lease inside and outside industrial parks. In Binh Duong, there is a type of land outside those 28 industrial parks called SKC land, land for production. This land can build factories. But the problem here is that before this land lot is built for factories, factory owners need to apply approval from the government to produce a certain kind of product, for example, wood production, plastic production. What happens when they lease back the factory? For you, but your manufacturing is not the one that has been approved as originally. The possibility of licensing is almost zero. Therefore, since the industry for each production plot outside the IP is limited to, it will be very time consuming for you to check each factory one by one. Therefore, we recommend that you look for a factory to rent in an industrial park or industrial cluster to limit the risk of not being able to get permission. 2. About the owner of the rental factory. 1. According to Vietnam's real estate business law, in order to be able to lease a factory, the factory owner on the Enterprise Registration Certificate, ERC, needs to register the real estate business. 2. For the factory owner who is a foreign-owned company operating in an industrial park, it is necessary to check one more permit, which is the Investment Certificate, IRC, which clearly states how many m2 of factory for lease. Factory owners who are 100% Vietnamese-owned companies may not need to check because Vietnamese companies are not required to have an Investment Certificate, IRC. So there will be 3 ways: either you ask the factory owner to provide copies of the above documents, or ask the broker to check the above 2 permits before you sign the contract. 3. About the rented factory. Factory for rent, if it has been built for a long time, it is necessary to have the land use right and assets attached on the land use right. A fire protection system suitable for your industry. If it is an unfinished project, you should carefully ask the investor to commit to the progress or can wait until the owner finish the construction. If it is a newly built factory, it is necessary to have a confirmation from the Industrial Park Management Board that the factory is eligible to go into operation. Fire prevention and fighting acceptance test, otherwise you cannot get the investment license. Most of the current rental factories in Vietnam are conventional standard built factories for normal manufacturing industries, without wastewater treatment systems, so if your industry has wastewater, check the following 2 factors with the factory owner. 1. Is your industry acceptable for this position? 2. Can you build your own factory's wastewater treatment system in the premises of the rental factory? Because some factory owners may disagree with this. 4. About the location. Of course, before coming to Vietnam, through many sources of information, through partners and friends, and some criteria about rental prices as well as labor force, most investors have identified the area or the province that you want to invest in, but can basically be divided into 4 areas as follows. North, the advantage is close to the border with China, many factories for rent, various prices, from $3-$6.50/m2 depending on the location. Central, advantage of land and cheap labor, concentrated factories for rent in Da Nang or Nha. Southeast region, advantages having many factories, many suppliers, rental price from $3-$6.50 depending on location. The West, abundant labor, factories for rent are concentrated in some areas near Can Tho. TP. Ho Chi Minh City, Hanoi, and Da Nang, priority is given to high-tech industries, limiting polluting and labor-intensive industries. And one more thing, that is a beautiful location, the rental price is not cheap, from over $4.5/m2/month. Locations that are a bit further from the center will cost around $2.50 minus $4.50/m2/month. 5. About the industry. If in your production process there are the following industries: textile with dyeing, plating, at the moment there are only more than 10 industrial zones in Vietnam that can accept, you can only rent workshops in those 10 industrial parks. Please contact us for more details. If you are normal manufacturing industry, in the production process there is no wastewater, no smell, no dust, you can rent a factory in almost industrial parks in Vietnam. If your production has wastewater, odor, dust, please provide us with preliminary production process, input materials, output finished products, wastewater volume 1 day and night. We will advise you the most suitable place. 6. Some common commercial terms when renting a factory. Typical factory lease term in Vietnam is 3 to 5 years, deposit about 6 months rent and pay monthly rent or quarterly payment. The average rent increase is about 7%/year. If you find a rental factory that the owner agrees to keep the price unchanged for 5 years, congratulations, you have found a very good place. Free period for equipment installation before putting into operation, depending on the lease term and rental area. This free period can be 1 to 3 months from the date the factory owner hands over the factory to you. And finally, in the lease terms in the contract, always propose conditions in case if the lessee does not get the investment certificate because of the refusal by the state agencies, the lessor will return the money. Deposit to the lessee and neither party will be penalized. If you have any questions about factories, warehouses, industrial land in Vietnam, please contact the hotline for more specific advice.